From the heartland of America, focused on God, family, and country, the mouthpiece of the Midwest. This is Dale Carter's America.
Well, Happy New Year from Dale Carter's America, the podcast. We're back in the podcast studio in Raytown, Missouri, recording on a very rainy day. The weather has just been really weird.
It has, yeah. It's been cold and then warm and then rainy and then...
Yeah. And when you go back a year ago and see what the weather was, because I look back on what I did on my show on KFKF a year ago, and a year ago we had a foot of snow on the ground and the wind chills were below zero.
It's coming. Don't worry. It's coming. We get that week to 2 week stretch every year where it's like below zero. So,
well, whatever comes at you, you need my pal Bob Watson on your side. Blue Springs local State Farm agent for 5 decades. Bob has been serving Eastern Jackson County for over 50 years from his office at 7th and Main in Blue Springs. You can reach him at 816-229-7878. And closed circuit to Bob, he's going to love this. Speaker of the House John Patterson is going to be on this particular episode, and I know that Bob Watson is great friends with John and his family as well. Auto, home, life, commercial insurance, licensed in both Missouri and Kansas. Bundle your home and car insurance to save even more. Like a good neighbor, State Farm, and Bob Watson is there. Help us spread the word in the crazy world that we're living in. We always talk about that. The news cycle, my God. I'd almost like to hit pause on the news cycle so we can get an episode in and cover everything. But there's probably things happening now as we're doing this.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Every single day there's stuff going on. But make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and Rumble for the video podcast. Leave a comment, drop a like, send it to your friends. It all helps us out greatly, so we appreciate it. You can find the audio-only version on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, and then make sure to follow us on Facebook as well. Join in the conversation.
You bet. Dale Carter's America, we call it the safe space for rooting for the country. You don't have to look down and say, well, I kind of like what Trump's doing, and then have somebody yell and scream at you because they've got TDS, which is getting people killed, by the way, and we're going to talk about that later in this podcast as well. We used to make fun of it, and it was this thing that our friends on the far, far left, where Donald Trump lives rent-free in your head, that was your problem. But now your problem is actually getting people killed. It's ridiculous. And so we're going to jump into all that. I am continuing my run for Jackson County's 5th Legislative District. And an update to that, I've been appointed by County Executive Phil Lavoda to represent the 5th District on the Combat Commission. Do you know what combat is?
No.
That is a tax, and we passed it several times in Jackson County. And are you familiar with the DARE program?
Yes.
It funds the DARE program, and it also funds other things through the courts and the law enforcement agencies. The goal is to reduce violent crime, reduce drug usage, do all those things that we need to do that I agree with, because public safety is the number one building block for any civilization. If you don't feel safe, you cannot build on that, and that's what combat is all about. And it ties into my goal of better public safety, and I'm going to enjoy being part of that. And I asked Phil, I said, well, I'm running for this seat. And he said, yeah, when you win. I like his confidence. He's like, we'll take you off the commission, but right now you can help us, and we need you. Speaking of help, I need you. Fundraising is in full speed here. We've gotten a lot of donors who have stepped up, getting some endorsements from big organizations, which we'll be talking about in the coming weeks. If you would like to help, I need your help. These things cost money. We're going to have to do direct mail pieces. There's going to be yard signs, bigger signs. We may end up doing some digital advertising, maybe some radio and billboards and all that. So if you want to help out, if you live in Jackson County and you want sanity restored to this county, I'm your guy, because I'm going to get in there and try and solve all these problems with the help of people like Speaker Patterson over in Jefferson City. The website, easy to find at dalecarter.us. And just click on the, there's the menu thing on the left side, right? You click on that, and it'll allow you to donate securely to the campaign. So thank you for doing that. Christian Brothers Automotive in Independence, that's Tim Porter's location on 40 Highway, just to the east of 291, 470, whatever you call it there. It's right in the middle between the east and westbound lanes. I was just there because my car needed to be serviced, and they took excellent care of me, as they always do. And my car's now coming up on 3 years old, so it needed some things. And I'm not a car guy. I'm not ashamed to admit that, right? I know what I am. I'm very secure in my sexuality. That's number one. But number two, I'll drink a girly drink, right? And I know that my car is black, and I know where the gas goes. That's the extent of it. Unlike the rest of the males in my family, I can't tear a car apart and put it back together again. So Christian Brothers, they explain to me everything that they need to do. And they're great folks. Who will hold your hand throughout the process, and they work on everything. We're keeping our autos longer. You got to keep them maintained, and Christian Brothers is a fantastic, family-oriented, God-fearing company. Tim Porter is an amazing man. 816-675-4587. Set up an appointment. Next time you need an oil change, trust me, they're going to take excellent care of your car and even better care of you, no matter what that vehicle is going to need. If you need a new roof, you know where I'm going with that. Royal Roofing and Solar. That's Austin Watterson's company. Austin did the roof on my house. And gosh, if you drove through my neighborhood, and not to throw anybody under the bus, and I'm not going to name any names, but if you looked at my neighbor's roof versus my roof, oh, it's bad. It's bad. Mine's great. Hers looks like, an old patchwork quilt. I'm not sure who thought that was going to be a good idea. But yeah, Austin wouldn't let you do that. Get him on your roof, especially with all this weird weather we're having. Cold one day, hot the next. Then you got all the precip and all that. It may be time for a new roof. You seeing the brown spots inside on your ceiling? That ought to indicate something to you. Roofbyroyal.com. They're the folks I trust on my roof, and I trust them to do a great job for you too. 816-540-7057. Austin Watterson, roofedbyroyal.com. Get a royal
tremendous people.
Get a royal roof on your house. And now we do welcome in the Speaker of the House, the state of Missouri, John Patterson. Mr. Speaker, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Great to be with you guys.
Yeah. John Patterson joining us, represents Lee's Summit in the Missouri House, also is the Speaker of the House, and a Blue Springs native. In fact, your parents still live down the street from me.
Yes, they do. 1998 Blue Springs High School.
All right. There you go. Go Wildcats and all that. So I hear it said a lot that it means a lot that we have a Speaker of the House from the Kansas City area. It's first time since the Civil War and all that. What does that really mean?
Well, the Speaker is one of the people that really sets the agenda in Jefferson City. And so the things that matter to people in Jackson County and Kansas City area are things that matter to me. And a lot of the time we have speakers from St. Louis or Springfield. So the priorities that we have in Jackson County kind of get set to the side.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have someone that can help set the agenda. And I'll give you an example. Our elected assessor, or the lack thereof,
right,
that's been an issue, but nobody else in the state cared about it because they all have elected assessors. And so when I first got in, I made that a huge priority. And then last year, of course, Carolyn Caton, Jeff Coleman, we worked on a bill. And so this fall, we'll be voting on a bill to put in the Constitution that Jackson County will have an elected assessor just like everybody else.
And we should. And, full disclosure here, and I'm running for Jackson County Legislature, 5th District and all that. Jackson County's a mess.
It is.
Where do you even want to start? From a state perspective, what in the world can be done?
Well, I think we're making some good steps. The elected assessor's one. Getting a new county executive is another. I think we're moving in the right direction. And then, of course, the elections in the fall. What I've been telling people is, we lost the chiefs probably because of property taxes, and we had the property tax situation because of our leadership in the Jackson County legislature. And so these elections really matter, and whoever we pick as our next executive, we got to make sure they're really good and is focused on Jackson County and is someone that will make good decisions, because I don't think we've had that for a while.
Right, we haven't. Phil Lavoda is a Democrat. He's filling in an interim role, says he will not run again. And friends of mine have said, he's the best county executive we've ever had. I'd like to twist his arm and get him to run.
Yeah, I don't know what'll happen with that and what kind of promises were made, but I agree with you. He's been a breath of fresh air. I've enjoyed working with him. We actually work together quite a bit, and he's going to come down to Jefferson City next week to be here as my guest for the State of the State, believe it or not. And I just want people to know in Jackson County and in Blue Springs and Grain Valley, Lee's Summit, Independence, that their leadership in Jefferson City is working with the leadership in Jackson County, because we all want to fix things in Jackson County, because like you said, it is kind of a mess.
Well, before we get to the legislative agenda and how that affects everything statewide, I mean, while we're talking about Jackson County, obviously the Chiefs have announced they're going to go to Kansas. I think the Royals are definitely leaving the Truman Sports Complex. Is that an issue at the state level, and how are you involved in that?
Well, it was an issue at the state level. Of course, we at the state feel like the best place for both the teams was in Missouri, and want to do everything we can to keep the Royals. In terms of the Chiefs, they've made their decision, and I don't hold it against the organization for making a good business decision for themselves. I do think as Kansans learn more about the deal that was made, and they learn more and more, I think they're liking it less and less. So we'll just have to see what goes on over there. Right now, I'm mainly just focused on the Royals, and we at the state have really done everything we can do. I think we put together a pretty fair offer that's fair to taxpayers and the organization and the teams and the city. We'll just have to see what kind of decision they make. But I think for baseball, I think it should be downtown, and it should be downtown Kansas City.
I'm the kind of guy that looks at what's next instead of crying in my milk about, what they're not going to do, what's next. Yeah. And when you look at Truman Sports Complex, it's been there since 1972. Royals and Chiefs have played there. That property, that entire property is owned by Jackson County. Am I correct on that?
Yes. Yeah. I believe so, and it's administered by the Jackson County Sports Authority.
Yeah. So once they leave, I'm thinking about what's next. And I know you have some thoughts on this. My thought is, if Jackson County owns that thing, let's get a private developer in there and put some sort of enterprise zone together, and let's build the next big thing there.
Yeah, and let's not put our heads down. It was kind of a gut punch to have one of the teams leave, but the Marty Schottenheimer rule: cry for 24 hours or celebrate for 24 hours and then move on. Yeah. And I actually think we could really do some great things out there. We could host big football games. The Chiefs had 8 football games a year. Could we host big events? Could we play outdoor hockey game there? World Cup rugby, Women's World Cup. I think there are still a lot of opportunities to use Arrowhead.
Oh, so in your mind, you'd keep the stadium?
I think that would be one option, and just there's the Cotton Bowl still exists, even though a professional team doesn't play there, and just host games. We could do the big Mizzou Lawrence game there every year, and have that. There's outdoor hockey games. There's all kind of things that we could do. Have big concerts. So I'm not necessarily as downtrodden as I was before. I think we could make that something great. You could have great soccer fields out there, but like you say, just develop it and make it a great thing, and not necessarily put a data center there.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
Something that it really is cool for people to come to.
I was just kind of thinking in my own mind what might go there that would take up that area, and the first thing that came to mind, you've got St. Luke's down on the plaza. And that's an area that, I work in Westport at the radio station. Yeah. So I see what's going on there and the traffic flow down there. I mean, what if St. Luke's just took that area and built a humongous hospital, research center, elder housing, and all that kind of stuff? That's kind of how my mind works. It's like, we have this big piece of property, what can we do with it?
Yeah, I haven't thought about a hospital, and there's probably all kinds of regulations. Yeah. Of course, there's good hospitals, research, and Centerpoint around there. But yeah, I think just demolishing it and having it be an empty parking lot, that's not a great option. I think we could do something really great with it.
Well, for those who don't know, you are a doctor and a surgeon and all that, so you would know a little bit about hospitals.
Yeah. I've spent some time in hospitals.
So let's talk about taxes from the state level, because there's taxes on a lot of levels here. There's the income tax I'm hearing about. There's the personal property tax I'm hearing about, and certainly in Jackson County we know about property taxes.
Absolutely. So I think, like I said before, we probably didn't get the vote done for the Chiefs and Royals because people are just so fed up with property taxes, and they weren't going to go to the polls and say, let's extend this tax. So as legislators, we talk with our neighbors and constituents, And the number one thing we hear is property tax and personal property tax, at least in Jackson County. It's just such an issue. We were hurt for a good number of years in the past 5 years because of the leadership that we had in Jackson County, and now we're just trying to dig our way out of it. So a lot of the legislation that we're looking at addresses those things. And then the bigger goal, the bigger issue in terms of the income tax is for our state. Do we want to be a state where people are moving into, where businesses are moving into, people want to retire here, people want to raise their families here? Or do we want to be a state that kind of just loses population and doesn't grow? I think when you look at the states that are doing really well, it's the states that treat people fairly in terms of taxes. So you look at a place like Tennessee. I was just there last week. So many cranes in the sky. Obviously, they've found something. Florida, no taxes, no income tax. Texas, no income tax. The question is, do we want to be like those states, and what can we do? Or the alternative, which seems to be, well, let's just keep doing things as we've always done it.
I'm a guy who does not like taxes. I don't think anybody really likes taxes.
Right.
And I like to look at it like this. What is the cost of government, and how are we going to pay for it? Instead of let's just tax everybody on everything they've got. We'll have this big hunk of money, and then we'll figure out how we're going to spend it. I think that's bass-ackwards, as my old football coach would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you obviously have expenses that you have to cover. I mean, if we do away with the income tax, how do we cover that?
Well, I'd be the first to say we're not going to get out of paying taxes as much as I would like to do that. You have to pay for government somehow, the basic services that government's supposed to provide, roads, schools. The question is income tax the best way to do it? And government has 100 different ways to tax you: sales tax, use tax, cigarette tax, income tax. Income tax is one of those. I would argue that income tax is probably one of the least efficient ways to do it, meaning people go to work, they're taxed on their earnings so that they can come home and pay taxes on what they own. That's the current system. And there's a question of, does eliminating the income tax and moving to something else, does that hurt lower income folks? Well, I will tell you this. Lower income folks pay 100% of Missouri's income tax, meaning Missourians pay 100% of income tax. Well, if you did a sales tax or something else, people that are visiting or driving through, they help pay for some of our government. And so all of those things are things that you have to look at in terms of how we fund our government. No one, Governor Kehoe, me, legislative leaders, nobody is saying you're going to get out of paying taxes. Unfortunately, you're going to have to pay it somehow. What's the best, most efficient way to do it?
I like the conversation. I mean, and I hope it continues, and we'll keep talking about this. It's not something like you couldn't do it like in a year. It would have to be phased out anyway.
Yeah. It would have to be phased in, and we'd have guardrails to make sure that we wouldn't have deep cuts in 1 year. Nobody wants to have a government that can't fund itself. That wouldn't be good for anybody.
But I like the idea. I mean, we border 8 different states, and if some of those folks want to come in here, and set up shop, I think we'd be all for that.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you gave me a little nugget here that intrigued me because I hadn't heard about this. This Will Job thing that you teased me with. What's going on there?
Yeah. Well, I think Representative Job, he's a good man. I've enjoyed working with him. He's a representative out of Independence in Jackson County, and he filed a House bill yesterday to look at impeaching Secretary of State Denny Hoskins. And so I think, impeaching a statewide official that our state elected is a very serious thing. And so I think there's a number of court cases going on. I just don't think that we should spend our time in that very limited time that we have, a finite amount of time doing impeachments and things that of course wouldn't go through.
Right. Well, that if the Democrats win Congress, it's going to be impeachment city on Donald Trump for the last 2 years.
I would rather talk about property taxes, personal property taxes, making people's lives better than doing impeachments and doing political stuff. Okay.
Well, you're an Eastern Jackson County guy, so I'm going to ask you this question. I don't know how you want to handle it, but Mike Steinmeier pre-filed the bill on separating. And I would just ask it this way. I mean, when I talk to voters, and again, I'm running for Jackson County Legislature because I've looked at this from both sides. And right now, my mindset is it's better to try and change it from within, which is why I'm running. But what benefit is there to those of us who live in eastern Jackson County to be shackled to Kansas City, Missouri?
Yeah, there are certain benefits to being together and certain disadvantages to that. In St. Louis, they kind of have this. They have the St. Louis City, and then they have the county,
Right.
and they're separate. And there's a lot of people that want to put them back together because they think that would be better. I think what Representative Steinmeier is saying is that we in Jackson County, we pay a lot of taxes, and the benefits, a lot of benefits go to the city in terms of government services. And so I think what he's saying is, if it can't be more equitable, why don't we just separate? And we pay our bills, we keep our taxes, you pay your bills, you keep your taxes. I think it's an interesting conversation, and I think we'll have that. Ultimately, to do it, Kansas City is a city that's in 4 different counties. It would be very hard to do, and practically and politically speaking, probably impossible. But I think it's a good discussion to have because it'll bring to light, well, what is Eastern Jackson County doing, and what are they getting versus Kansas City, and what are they doing, what are they getting? I think we'll have that conversation.
Well, Steinmeier is going to be on the podcast next week, so I'm going to ask him that.
Great.
We're going to do a deep dive on that. But to your point about what Eastern Jackson County gets out of this deal, they just went through the ARPA. Was it ARPA? The funding that came out of COVID, the emergency COVID money, they're finally spending it. And I saw the list of who got the money, and it starts with $1.3 million to the Urban League and goes down from there. And I didn't see any Eastern Jackson County agencies.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he's talking about. We pay a lot of taxes out there. And we see the benefits probably go to the city more than out in Eastern Jackson County.
All right. So you're about to be termed out. You're going out on top. You're going to be the Speaker of the House. And now you're running for the state Senate. Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, I've been a state representative for 8 years, representing just Lee's Summit. And our great state senator, Mike Searpoy, he's termed out as well. So the state Senate seat that basically encompasses Lee Summit and Blue Springs would be open. And I didn't come to Jeff City to be a career politician. I hate the thought of that, but I think the service that I've done, what I've learned in Jeff City, is valuable. And I think being someone that's my hometown is Blue Springs, I've made my home in Lee Summit. I think I'm a pretty good candidate to represent all those people. I think I have a good idea of what's important to us and what we want. So I made the decision to run for the state Senate, and that election will be this year. And hope to continue my service serving Blue Springs, Lee Summit, Greenwood, and Lone Jack.
Well, I think the world of you. I think you're a very bright guy. You're getting a lot of things done in Jefferson City that people didn't think could be done. And I think you'd make an amazing senator.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
John Patterson. He is the Speaker of the House in Missouri. And appreciate you being on the podcast, sharing your views today. Did we cover everything? Is there anything else you want to throw out?
I think there's a lot more to talk about, but I'll come on again.
Come again. All right. John, thank you.
With you.
Take care.
Thanks.
Well, I went to see my friends at Clay Como Shooters last weekend.
I was going to ask you about it, but I figured you were going to talk about it.
It went very well. My wife, she does her research. She knows exactly what she wants. She wanted a certain kind of shotgun. And just to kind of rewind this a little bit for those who may not have missed an episode or two, we had a break-in attempt at our house.
Yes.
And you don't fix things. You don't go in and do all this stuff until you have an event like that. Somebody literally took a Sawzall and tried to saw into my garage door. Mm-hmm. What are they thinking? Maybe, there's a marijuana superstore on the corner right around from my house. Maybe they got into too much pot. I don't know what's going on. So we have taken steps. We have excellent security now, and my wife wants a shotgun. So I took her to Clay Como Shooters, and they found her the exact shotgun that she wants, and they're going to train her up on it. Had to special order it, but they were excellent working with us on that. And when it comes in, she's going to get training because these folks train law enforcement. They are a full-service firearms dealer. They buy guns, too. And I got my eye on a little Sig Sauer. And
Sig.
I think when she gets trained on the shotgun, I think it's finally time for me to do that. And when you need to practice, they've got an indoor shooting range. When I was there, for whatever reason, there was a run on suppressors. All these people were coming in to get their suppressor paperwork filled out. They're a complete full-service firearms dealer with affordable pricing, not a big box store, neighborhood business looking out for the community. Protect yourself and your family. Remember, this is why we're doing all of this. Because if we have a break-in our house or somebody kicks in a door, you're going to call 911. What's the wait time on that? And what could happen? It's too long. So protect yourself and your family, find the right firearm, and get trained on it with my friends at Clay Como Shooters. Getting closer to 65, that's me every day. I'm going to be 63 in September. So in a couple of years, I'm going to get really serious about Medicare. If you or somebody in your family is approaching 65, you got to get on the phone with my friend Kirk Doris at MedicareSimplifiedKC.com, because Medicare is a convoluted mess. It comes from the federal government. What could you expect, right? They've made all these changes because of the big, beautiful bill, which is a big, beautiful law now. And Kirk Doris knows all of the angles on this. Which part, which plan? Well, it depends on you. Do you need a supplement? You probably will. Which one do you need? And you don't pay Kirk, okay? He gets paid by the insurance companies. If you can't come to him, he'll come to you. It starts with a phone call, 816-701-6661. He is on the web. I love websites that are just so self-explanatory. His website is MedicareSimplifiedKC.com. It does not get any simpler than that. Give him a call, give Kirk a call, and tell him that you love the podcast, because we need to spread that word as well. Okay, so a couple of segments here left that we're going to talk about. I've labeled this one Venezuela and Other Trump Adventures, because it's crazy, right? And if you have TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome, you got to feel like a ballpark pretzel. I mean, you're pissed off all the time. Can you sustain that level of outrage every day? I mean, you were up in Minnesota and you were worried about, finding all this fraud that's going on up there with Tim Walz, which we'll get to in a moment. And then Trump, you wake up on Sunday morning and we've gone into Venezuela. And we grabbed the leader of Venezuela, who was under indictment here in the United States. Past presidents have talked tough. Biden even put a $25 million reward on his capture, right? So I guess my question is, did they think he was going to, get on a plane and come here?
I don't know. I guess.
Did they think that Captain Kirk and the USS Enterprise were going to get into our orbit and beam him out of Venezuela and beam him to the United States? Something had to be done. And I'll tell you what, you look at the foreign actions, and I know you don't like this getting involved overseas, but there are a lot of reasons why this was a good idea. And we got in and out before anybody knew what happened. The protest, did you see that they had signs pre-printed, stay out of Venezuela, and it was the same font everywhere? How could they have had that done? Did they know it was going to happen? I don't think so. He didn't tell Congress. And he said, here's why I'm not telling Congress, because you people will tell Venezuela. He doesn't trust them.
Congress had the signs?
No. There were protests in large cities, and they all had the same font on their signs. It's like, how does this happen? So we're going to untangle this from a lot of different angles, and we're going to start with this. This is a compilation of Chuck Schumer back in 2020. Remember, Donald Trump was president, and Chuck Schumer was giving him a hard time on the floor of the Senate for talking tough about Venezuela, and then following up what happened this past week.
He brags about all these things he wants to do or is doing, but his actions belie his words. Maybe the best metaphor was his claim to bring democracy to Venezuela. There was a big policy there. It flopped. If the policy was working, Juan Guaido wouldn't be in the balcony here. He'd be in Venezuela. He'd be sitting in the president's palace, or at least waging a fight to win. He's here. And the president brags about his Venezuela policy? Give us a break. He hasn't brought an end to the Maduro regime. The Maduro regime is more powerful today and more entrenched today than it was when the president began.
So what can the Congress do about it is the next question.
Well, the next question is very simple, and that is that we have the War Powers Act. That's a privilege resolution, which means the Republicans can't block it. Tim Kaine and I and Rand Paul are sponsors of it. It's going to come to the floor this week. And if it is voted for, if it's voted positively in both houses, then the president can't do another thing in Venezuela without the okay of Congress. We have to pass it.
In your
President Trump say that he intends for the United States to run Venezuela? It was reckless. It was dangerous. And looking at the president's demeanor, he didn't even seem to be aware of how dangerous and reckless it is. Let me be clear. Maduro is an illegitimate dictator, but launching military action without congressional authorization, without a credible plan for what comes next, is reckless. Now, I was in the skiff on 3 different occasions, as recently as December, and I asked the administration, I asked them, are you pursuing regime change? Are you intent on taking military action in Venezuela, Venezuelan territory? And they assured me that they were not pursuing those things. Clearly, they're not being straight with the American people.
Yeah. So there's a lot to unpack there. The War Powers Act, one of them, congressional notification, the other. Trump saying we're going to run Venezuela for the time being. I thought Marco Rubio was going to have a stroke when Trump just did that off the cuff. And he got back in there. I don't know if you saw the press conference or not. He got back in there and he cleaned all that up. But let's talk about the War Powers Act. Presidents, all the way back to the beginning of the War Powers Act, have had great discretion to use the military under their Article 2 power under the Constitution. The president is the commander-in-chief, okay? He can put our forces pretty much anywhere he wants to with the advice and consent of his Secretary of State, his Secretary of War, and his administration. There are notifications in there. But if you look at the War Powers Act, I mean, it's like weeks into this thing or months into this thing where he has to officially notify Congress of what we've done, what the intention is, and get the blessing of Congress. We were in and out in 12 hours.
Right.
It's done. It's gone. So I don't know what he's going to do there. And then he says he didn't notify Congress beforehand because he was afraid they'd leak it. They probably would have. Right?
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, regardless of how you feel about it, it's like, yeah, you can't. The more, if you tell Congress or anything like that, I mean, they're going to run to the press immediately. Yeah. So here's that video, by the way, of Trump at the press conference. This is worth watching.
A place called Venezuela. We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. We can't take a chance that somebody else takes over Venezuela that doesn't have the good of the Venezuelan people in mind. We've had decades of that. We're not going to let that happen. We're there now, and what people don't understand, but they understand as I say this, we're there now, but we're going to stay until such time as the proper transition can take place. So
he has a tough time reading. He's much better off the cuff.
Yeah.
So it's obviously blatant hypocrisy with what's gone on in the past. Where were the Democrats when Barack Obama went after Muammar Gaddafi? Because one of the things that we haven't even talked about yet is the Monroe Doctrine. I mean, this is our backyard. All the way back to James Monroe, we have asserted that the Western Hemisphere is our playground. And other folks from Europe and Asia, you need to stay the hell out of it. And every president with a set of stones, back to Teddy Roosevelt, has had corollaries to the Monroe Doctrine that have strengthened the Monroe Doctrine. So you can't even invoke the Monroe Doctrine when you talk about Libya, yet Barack Obama went in there. And I have a feeling that if Obama was president right now and this effort took place, somebody somewhere would nominate him for the Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah, maybe.
You know, he got away with a lot of stuff there, and Democrats let him do it, and Republicans were like, okay, Gaddafi's a bad guy. We need to get Gaddafi. Not to mention his drone campaign, which killed American citizens. He did that, I mean, how many times? Hundreds of times. Suspected terrorists. Maybe they were really good guys. Maybe they had families, right? They were just out walking, and all of a sudden, here comes a drone. How was that?
That's pretty good.
Using my own sound effects.
I'm playing some B-roll footage of some of the bombing in Venezuela in the background here.
So I've told ignorant posters on Facebook to do three things. And there's a lot of ignorance. And people aren't even shy about it anymore. They'll just throw whatever stupid-ass thing they want onto the Facebook page. By the way, I eliminated one of your old pals yesterday. We got into it, and he was just nasty and name-calling and one of these guys who you just can't find any common ground with. You'll probably know who I'm talking about when I say that early on we invited him on the podcast, and he wanted to be paid. To be on the podcast.
Yes.
So he is now officially blocked and eliminated from Dale Carter's America. As I told him, think of this as Minneapolis and I'm the mayor, because it's my podcast, right? So I'm the mayor. So you need to get the F out. I took all that down because he caught me on a bad day, and it's just we need to move on. And then he sent me a direct message, and he said Charlie Kirk would be ashamed. Really? Come on, invoke Charlie Kirk. Okay, so everybody out there needs to read. I know you don't want to read the whole Constitution. You just want to act like you have, and you act like you know what you're talking about. But read Article 2 of the Constitution. Read the War Powers Act, because that's very important. Read about the Monroe Doctrine and the history behind that. All important pieces that give Trump all the authority he needed to do this. It gave Bush 41 all he needed to do to go get Noriega, right? The first two were used by Obama and Clinton. Before the War Powers Act, and the reason we have the War Powers Act is because Harry Truman took us to war in North Korea. There was no congressional resolution on that. How many Americans died in Korea for what? Right? How many Americans died in Vietnam because John F. Kennedy sent advisors over there, and then Lyndon Johnson turned it into an all-out war? Okay? The War Powers Act was designed to prevent another Korea or Vietnam. If you're going to commit forces, you've got to, at some point early on in the engagement, come to Congress and get help. Remember George W. Bush, he went to Congress before Gulf War II, and he got a resolution to go in there. Hillary Clinton voted for it, for crying out loud. So there have been times when Democrats and Republicans have worked together to do the right thing. This is not one of them. The military action was flawless, seamless, and over before any of us woke up on Sunday. In fact, when my wife woke up on Sunday, I said, hey, we went into Venezuela, we got Maduro, and they're already out. And no Americans were killed. 7 were wounded. 5 of those, as the last I heard, are already out of the hospital. So flawless, seamless. And what I would wish for, and it's interesting, it's ironic. Remember when Fetterman was running for the Senate, I think we were making fun of him because he'd had a stroke and he couldn't really speak well, and he was wearing the hoodie and the shorts and all that. It turns out he is the best statesman among the Democrats in the Senate.
Yeah, he's getting a lot of popularity among Republicans right now, for
Pull
sure.
that photo up that I linked there.
The post?
Yeah.
Okay, here it is.
Hey, go ahead.
Less than a year ago, President Biden upped the Maduro bounty to $25 million. Removing Maduro was positive for Venezuela. As a Democrat, I don't understand why we can't acknowledge a good development for Venezuelans and how deft our military's execution of that plan was.
They can't do it.
U.S. Senator John Fetterman.
Because it was Trump. And they have so ginned up hatred of one man, and again, it's getting people killed. We're going to get to that here in just a little bit. Venezuela, I think, is part of a much bigger plan that affects Russia, China, and Cuba, among others. Cuba's economy is like tottering, and China and Russia were counting on Venezuelan oil. Remember that? We were taking care of their drug boats as they were running out, and then they were sending tankers full of oil that was sanctioned to places where we don't want it to go. China's trying to get a foothold in Venezuela. I mean, that screams invoke the Monroe Doctrine. We don't want China to have a foothold in the Western Hemisphere. So this had to be done. And now it's going to be interesting to see what the downline impact is going to be on Russia, China, and Cuba. Venezuela is going to be fine. Venezuela. You want to talk about oil? And a lot of people are saying we went in there just for the oil and all that. Okay. Look at the Venezuelan oil in terms of history. Who started it?
You're asking me? I don't know.
The United States. Our oil companies found the oil in Venezuela. All right? They built the infrastructure for the oil companies. And who essentially destroyed it? When Chavez came in that revolution that brought the communists in, they destroyed it. They kept a little of it alive so that they could sell oil for nefarious purposes. But essentially, they took it over. They stole it from the American oil companies that were down there working with the Venezuelan government to produce an oil economy. And have you ever been to Venezuela?
I haven't. Have you?
I have not, but I have friends who vacationed there every year, right? And my son Nick,
it is a pretty wealthy, like, nice place from what I've heard. Yeah, it was.
Again, this is before Chavez.
Right.
So before Chavez was there, these friends of mine vacationed there every year, and my son Nick was dating their daughter, and they said, look, we want to take Nick with us on vacation. So I got him a passport. And then the whole revolution happened, and nobody's going to Venezuela. It turned into a third world country. It was the most wealthy country in South America, and it can be again. Who's going to rebuild it? It's going to be the American oil companies that go in there. All right? That's what's going to happen. I think this is a net plus. I think it's going to be fine. And the stock market has agreed. I don't know if you follow the stock market much, but, it was up thousands of points over the course of the week because they see the positive outcome of this. And, I just wish that Democrats at some point could say, okay, yeah, that might be pretty good. Or, let's sit down, let's talk, and let's figure out what we're going to do next. But they can't do it. And so we've got we're at loggerheads here. So I'm going to hope in one hand, and what's the old expression, crap in the other, and see which one fills up first?
Is that what they say?
You never heard that before?
No, I've never heard that.
That's a boomer thing. I'm getting a little annoyed with people calling me a boomer and all that because I looked up the generations, and I'm only a boomer by 1 year.
It still counts. You're still a boomer.
It still counts?
Yeah.
All right, fine. Whatever. I'll hang out with my fellow boomer who's quite a bit older than me, and that's Jim Dingman at Funhouse Pizza, who is not shy about sending me a text in the morning, when I'm playing like Jelly Roll on the air or Morgan Wallen. He's like, that ain't country. That ain't country. He does a mean pizza, though. They've got awesome pizza, cold drinks, fun atmosphere, 2 locations, 50 Highway in Lee Summit, 7 Highway in Blue Springs. It's Funhouse Pizza because it's fun. It's a great place to have a birthday party for your kid because they got all these games and they got rides there. You can grab one of the best pizzas in Kansas City. Order it online, in fact, at funhousepizza.com. And stop by, pick it up. You can eat in, whatever the case may be. The bigger location is in Lee Summit on 50 Highway. And then, of course, they're on 7 Highway in Blue Springs as well. That is Fun House Pizza. As the economy improves, somebody who's going to cash in on that in 2026 is my pal Michael Schroer, because he's already doing it. He had an amazing 2025. We've shared quite a bit of that on the podcast page on Facebook. But he's at Remax Elite in Lee Summit, and what he wants you to know is, whatever stage of life that you are in, he's got housing covered for you. If you're younger, and I know we said earlier that 40 is now the line where people are moving from apartments or their parents or whatever into their first home. We could move that down, I think, as the economy improves. So as you look around your apartment and you decide you want that first home, call Michael Schroer. After you get that first home, the one that the starter home that you're going to sell and then move into something a little nicer when you have more kids, Michael Schroer is the guy who can do that. When your kids graduate from school, and trust me, Kurt, when I say this, that will happen in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
You will wake up one day and go, where are my kids? And they'll be off at college, or they'll be married and they'll have kids of their own. It happens that fast. Then you want to get a smaller house, or maybe you got a piece of property you want to build on. Michael Schroer is the guy to call. Remax Elite, Lee Summit. Here's his number. Get him on his cell phone because he's rarely in the office. 816-520-9342. You want to leave a message at the office, it's 816-373-8400. His email address, michaelschroer56@gmail.com. Schroer is spelled Schroer. Good guy. We got a lot of good guys involved in this podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So when Venezuela happened, Democrats, and this is why I say, and the TDS crowd, they're like ballpark pretzels, because Trump has so much headspace rent free in their brains that no matter what he does, they're going to be pissed off about it. Mm-hmm. That's the only gear that they've got. So they had to snap out of their previous rage when this YouTuber was uncovering massive fraud, because now we got to be mad about Venezuela, and they're mad about something that happened in Minneapolis, which we're going to get to as well. But I want to do this kind of in the order that it happened, and we're going to start with this clip that involves the YouTuber, the kid basically, who has done the job of the mainstream media and uncovered the massive multi-billion-dollar fraud.
By this place 100 times. I've never seen a child here.
A now viral video raising even more questions about widespread fraud in Minnesota.
This building received over $3 million. Hello, how are you? I would like to see if I could bring little Joey, my son little Joey here. Is there paperwork, or can I check out the daycare?
Conservative social media influencer Nick Shirley joining forces with a man named David, who's been investigating federally funded businesses in the Twin Cities, particularly daycare centers, dozens of which they say they visited and found not to be operating, despite receiving millions of dollars in taxpayer money.
So this is Quality Learning Center. I meant to say Quality Learning Center.
Don't open up!
They said they spelt learning wrong.
Don't open up!
How do you have ice here, ma'am? I'm literally a YouTuber.
The video, which has now been viewed more than 75 million times, prompting a response from FBI Director Kash Patel.
How do you not, do I look like ice? I'm just a YouTube kid.
Yeah.
The Learning Center, that's been everywhere.
That's very funny. Yeah.
And of course, what Democrats are going to say first is, we're racist because we noticed, right? You're not supposed to notice these things.
Well, and one thing, I'm not going to look it up or pull it up, but I follow NPR on Facebook just to kind of see where their finger's at on the pulse. And they posted a bunch of stories about it, but it wasn't addressing any of the claims in the video or any of the facts about the case. They were trying to discredit the guy by saying, well, he was a former staffer for such and such, and he once donated to Republican presidential candidate or whatever, So they're just totally blatantly partisan. That's been a lot of the reaction that I'm seeing from people, is trying to discredit the guy or, say that it's racist, like you said, or whatever, without actually addressing the fact that there's this massive fraud going on.
You're not supposed to notice these things.
Yeah.
And Biden's Justice Department, they had an ongoing investigation that had been going on about this fraud. So somebody at Justice knew all about this. And you got to think that, my God, are they just idiots here? Because Kamala Harris is looking for a VP. You got Shapiro over in Pennsylvania, who would have been a great pick. I still believe that. I think he's going to run for president down the road. Smart guy. I mean, I don't agree with him on a lot, but he's one of those guys who I think could bring the temperature of the country down and would be a good guy ultimately.
Careful what you wish for, Dale.
I'm not wishing for it. I'm just saying if he were president, I'd sleep okay at night. Biden, I wasn't quite sure who was running the show there. So Kamala's looking for a VP, and she goes, I think Tim Walz is the guy. Don't you think somebody in that White House or that administration would have given her a heads up? Hey, we're investigating a lot of fraud in his state.
Yeah, I mean.
And he's the governor. So guess who is to blame for what we just saw from the YouTuber? I'll give you three guesses. First two won't count. Here is Governor Tim Walz.
Speaking of the Somali community, President Trump is targeting them and your state in part. He's citing fraud as the reason for his crackdown. Dozens of people of East African descent have been charged, convicted, and sentenced for stealing more than $1 billion in taxpayer money from government programs during COVID. As you know, Governor, that is more than Minnesota spends each year to run its Department of Corrections. So I want to give you a chance to respond to this. Do you take responsibility for failing to stop this fraud in your state?
Well, certainly I take responsibility for putting people in jail. Governors don't get to just talk theoretically. We have to solve problems. And I will note, it's not just Somalis. Minnesota is a generous state. Minnesota is a prosperous state, a well-run state. We're AAA bond rated, but that attracts criminals. There's a reason Minnesota ranks as the top lowest childhood poverty, best place for children to live. People are taking advantage of that. They're going to prison. That is totally disconnected with demonizing an entire group of people who came here fleeing civil war and created a vibrant community that makes Minnesota and this country better. But that's Donald Trump. Deflect, demonize, come up with no solutions. He's not going to help fix anything on fraud. My God, there's a big difference between fraud and corruption is something he knows about.
No, Tim Walz knows quite a bit about that. So that's an old video that
we've played it before.
We have played it before.
I have a question for Tim Walz there. He said it's not all Somalis. What percentage is Somalis? Approximately what percentage of people that are doing this are Somali?
And because they know that the fraud's going on there, he says, sure, it attracts a lot of criminals because we're a generous state. Because the criminals know. It's like, you want to get in on the fraud?
Yeah, that's not a good look for you. We're a generous state. That's why all the criminals are coming here. Okay, well, so, maybe you're too generous.
I wanted to play that video to set this up because the walls are closing in on Tim Walz, and he made this announcement.
I see what you did there. The walls on walls.
See?
That's very good. Campaign slogan. Okay, here we go.
State, there's full accountability for everybody because I buck stops with me. I'm accountable for this. And because of that accountability, I'm not running for office again. But I have a year to continue to improve on a record that I think will stand up against anybody's, a record that has made Minnesota better, a record that makes people want to come here, and a record that has respected not only the dignity of people, but the idea of rule of law. State.
Yeah. So, but don't think he's going to resign. He drew the line. I'm not resigning.
Right. Oh, that's a separate video.
Separate video.
Okay, here we go. Loading. Is that a Minnesota flag that he's wearing on his lapel, by the way? I was trying to figure that out. Maybe you can.
I don't know.
It's like blue with a thing on it. Here we go.
Could be.
Republicans want to tear this state down. Republicans want to tell you it's too dangerous to walk down the streets. Republicans want to tell you there's nothing good comes out of Minneapolis, St. Paul. Republicans want to tell you everybody with brown skin is stealing money or that they're not welcome here. They want to do nothing to improve this state. Their idea of improving this state is being a parrot for Donald Trump, agreeing to everything that he agreed with. Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. It ain't happening. I'm not going anywhere. And you can make all your requests for me to resign over my dead body. Will that happen? I will fight this thing till the very end to make this state better. And the question that I think they need to decide is when did the guy in the White House resign? When does he take accountability for what he did? Because it isn't going to happen here in terms of us shying away from making the state better.
So I don't know what he's talking about. What did Trump do? I mean, we have an ICE operation going on in Minneapolis, okay? Enforcing federal law, right? He's not like some cowboy out of the movies who's just going in and grabbing all the brown people, as Tim Walz would have you believe. We're enforcing federal law. And if there are people here, and there are, who are here illegally, we have to get them out of this country. Barack Obama certainly did it. Biden is the one who opened the door. Clinton is somebody who was strong on the border. The Bushes were strong on the border. We've got to get these people out of here. So they're enforcing federal law. So what has Minnesota and Minneapolis in particular done? They've told their cops, don't get involved. All right? Don't get involved. We're not going to help ICE. Just stay out of their way. So what happened yesterday as we're recording this is there was a woman who went to an ICE enforcement bent on disrupting it. And she was told, move your car. And she didn't move her car. And so they told her to get out of the car. And at that point, she guns the engine, and then it becomes a weapon aimed at an ICE officer. And she got shot, and she got killed. So people are getting killed because of your TDS. This was not some Susie homemaker who was just driving down the street and happened to wander into this. She did this on purpose. She went to this place to disrupt an ICE legal enforcement of what was going on. And I've told my kids this, and you need to tell your kids this too, Kurt, when they start driving. If a police officer pulls you over, hands at 10 and 2 on that wheel, and your only responses are yes, sir, no, sir. Comply, and you won't die. But if you come at an officer with a gun, a knife, or you gun your car and you aim it at them, you are begging to die.
Here's the video. This is not safe for work. Viewer discretion advised. It's not like super graphic, but there's language and stuff. So. Yeah, it goes on for a while after that, but
no, they're not. You know, you put yourself in the middle of an ICE enforcement that is legal.
You said
you're
a couple
asking
things
for it
there that I want to, and I agree with a lot of what you're saying. Of course, you know that we need ICE. We need to deport these people who are here illegally. You shouldn't be obstructing law enforcement and these things. You know, totally 100%. In this case specifically, it's kind of one of these things. It was like the George Floyd situation where the video that went viral and the video that I just played here, you don't see any of the context. You just see boom, you see the 5 seconds that it happens, and then that's it. That's what everyone is reacting to. So it's like, you know, you mentioned, and maybe I'm missing something, but you mentioned that she went there to disrupt the law enforcement proceedings.
Right.
Is that true?
That
Has
is
that
true.
been verified? Like
Yes.
she came from out, she brought her car there from out of the area.
That's my understanding. Well, that car was licensed to Missouri, by the way.
Oh, interesting.
And she lived in Kansas City for a while. So, yeah, that's my understanding, is that she went to this event in order to disrupt the ICE effort.
Now, the other thing that I hear people talking about is that she was trying to hit the officer. And I watched the video. I watched it from different angles and stuff. To me, it looked like she was pulling away. Like she wasn't, you know, trying to run him over. And there's a part earlier in the video, I'll pull it up again, where like right here at the beginning, I'm going to mute it. She's sitting there and she waves the person by. So that seems a little bit more passive. Now they get out of their car. They tell her to get out of the car. And this is when, you know, she doesn't want to get out of the car. So she backs up right there. It's looking like she's trying to, I mean, you can see her turning, right? So she's trying to pull away. She's trying to escape the situation. That's what it looks like to me. Now, again, don't do that, you know, like, but do you deserve to get shot for trying to flee, you know, an investigation? I don't know. I mean, I think there's some nuance there.
I think when you put on that badge and that uniform, you know, you are taking your life into your hand every time that you go out.
Well, there was also something that I saw that said that the particular officer, I don't know if his name's been released or whatever. I mean, he's going to have a whole world of trouble now, I'm sure. But, and this is not verified. It's just something I saw on Twitter that was saying that this officer that pulled the trigger had been hit by a car already like 6 months ago or something like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm sure he was feeling a certain type of way, you know, a little scared or, you know, skittish. I mean, if you have something like that happen to you, you're kind of on guard, you know what I mean, for somebody trying to run you over. But I don't know. I mean, it's just, I don't think it's so clear cut. And in terms of this particular case, was this justified or not? I don't know if it's so clear.
Well, you can bet they're going to investigate it from every angle that's out there.
Yeah.
But I am always going to err on the side of law enforcement because they've got a hell of a job to do. And they are up against not only illegal immigrants, they're up against people who are trying to keep them from doing their job, and they're up against politicians. Let me give you an alternate universe. Let's say Barack Obama is president and he wants to deport a bunch of people. Do you really think that blue city mayors and governors are going to go on television and say Barack Obama is a Nazi and he's sending stormtroopers into our city and we're not going to help, we're not going to keep people back, which they could have done. Local police could have had crowd control going on and let ICE do their job. They didn't do any of that. Do you think if Barack Obama was president, you would have had that kind of level of rhetoric coming from Democrats?
No, I mean,
you wouldn't
of course
have,
not.
and you didn't. And you've pointed out many times that he deported millions of illegals.
Yeah.
Now, somebody corrected me on that, and I don't know whether that's true or not, but they said that basically Barack counted deporting illegals, turning them around at the border.
Yeah, I was going to say that too, and that is a slight correction on my part too, because there's a difference between deporting people at the border and then like sending in ICE agents to like arrest and deport people. I think he probably did less of that than Trump is doing.
Trump has to,
and part of the number being bigger under Obama too for deportations is that more people were coming here. So you have more people under him and under Biden because they think that they're going to get fair treatment, which they did.
Right.
So they see the opportunity, and then millions more people are coming. They get turned away at the border, or they barely make it into the country and they get sent back. That counts as a deportation. And there's probably less of this sort of like masked ICE officers, on the streets showing up at Home Depot kind of thing going on in that administration.
Well, remember when Biden was at the Democrat debate before he won the nomination, he was the only one on that Democrat stage who said, we want to open the border. We want you to come into the country. So Biden created this mess. Trump is cleaning it up using every legal means at his disposal. And those ICE agents are wearing masks because Democrat blue city mayors and governors and other officials have doxed these people. Mm-hmm. So in doing their job, they have to worry about their family back at home.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's why they're covering their faces.
Definitely.
And, Democrats like Tim Walz, the mayor of Minneapolis, who says, ICE agents, get the F out of our city. Mm-hmm. Well, we've talked a lot about the supremacy clause in the Constitution. They are federal agents enforcing federal law. If you don't like the law, if you want all these illegals to come here and set up shop in the United States, change the law. Win an election, change the law. The law is what the law is. And the mayor cannot tell federal agents you can't come here unless Minneapolis is no longer part of the United States. I think it is.
I mean, it is legally, but culturally it's not. I mean, we've talked about the fraud with the Somalis, but I mean, they've basically taken over the city. Even the mayor of Minneapolis, Frey, whatever his name is.
Right.
He's like giving press conferences in Somali now. He learned the language. He reads Somali off the teleprompter in his own city. It's like, this isn't even America anymore. It's what I talk about. It's like, is America a place? Yeah. Is America a physical location with borders, or is it a people? If you come here, legally, quote unquote, on like a work visa or H-1B or whatever, but you don't speak English, you don't value our country or any of our culture, you're openly calling for Muslim prayer, in the public square.
Sharia law.
Are you really an American? I mean, I don't know. I think there's a legitimate conversation to be had around that. And Minneapolis is a perfect example.
It's a tragic situation.
It is. It is very tragic.
But I blame these Democrat politicians who have ginned up these people. Yeah. I mean, you've already got people who've got TDS to the nth degree. And if you've got a politician that you support saying, they're bringing in Nazi stormtroopers and they're picking people up off the street, that could be citizens doing illegal things, which they're not. When you gin up people to that level, how can you be shocked when something like this happens?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you're totally right with that. And it's unfortunate because you see these innocent people like this woman, and that's a big part of it too, is like the gender dynamic going on here. You have these like soft women that are getting in the middle of like riots because they're being riled up on social media, and they're being told that we live in the Fourth Reich.
Yeah.
And they feel like, empowered to go into these situations where they shouldn't be, in the first place. And it's really sad.
In my alternate universe where Barack Obama is president, he would have gone out and said, look, we have a problem in this country. We've got a lot of illegals. ICE is going to go in. They're going to take care of this. Stay out of their way. And he would tell blue city mayors and blue city governors, I'm going to need your cooperation here. And Trump's not getting that. Yeah. And this isn't happening in red states and red jurisdictions. This is happening in blue jurisdictions. What does that tell you? That tells you that these politicians are, again, ginning up the population and trying to get them. Honest to God, this is my honest take on this. I think at some level, these politicians are thrilled by this.
Oh, yeah.
It makes Donald Trump look bad.
Yeah, well, it makes him look bad, but it also creates more chaos, and they benefit from chaos.
They live off of it.
It further breaks down, I mean, that's what they're trying to do, is they're trying to break down the American society, and this is like perfect at that,
Well, we know what happened after George Floyd. They basically burned Minneapolis to the ground in certain parts. So Tim Walz was out trying to get calm. He was trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube. Again, he's a guy who is responsible for this because of his rhetoric. Rhetoric means something. When you go on television and you say these things, there's a consequence down the road. And it cost a woman her life because she put herself in the middle of something she shouldn't have been in the middle of. So Tim Walz is hoping that Minneapolis doesn't burn to the ground again.
Will not turn against each other. To Minnesotans, I say this: I feel your anger. I'm angry. They want a show. We can't give it to them. We cannot. If you protest and express your First Amendment rights, please do so peacefully, as you always do. We can't give them what they want. The hearts and minds of the people in this state are on our side. To Americans, I ask you this: please stand with Minneapolis.
He says we can't give them what they want. Did you want Minneapolis to burn to the ground? Did you want a big chaotic display? No, I didn't want that. They want that, which is why they do this. And then they got to go out there and say, damn, maybe we stepped over the line here. They won't admit that publicly, but maybe in their heart of hearts, they will have some introspection and say, maybe I had something to do with this.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. Hey, one more time. Bob Watson, State Farm Agent, 7th and Main in Blue Springs, 816-229-7878. Auto, home, life, commercial insurance, boats. I mean, hey, it was almost 70 degrees the other day. Yeah. You might want to get your boat out. Probably not yet. He's licensed in Missouri and Kansas, and he will get you the best rate. Get a rate quote. Great time to do that. Actually, it's always a great time to do that if you're trying to save money. Bundle your home and car insurance. You'll save even more. Like a good neighbor, Bob Watson and State Farm is there. 816-229-7878. We're going to leave you with this because you got Minneapolis and it's a mess. And then you got the city of New York, which is, that's a pop the popcorn moment. I can't imagine where the bottom is on that. Some things that we know already. Mamdani was sworn in as mayor of New York by Bernie Sanders.
I didn't know that.
You had a commie swearing in a commie. I mean, what right does Bernie Sanders have to swear in the mayor of New York? He's a senator from Vermont. I don't get that. Of course, who cares about the rules, right? Remember when the subways were going to be free?
Yep.
You remember him saying that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they raised subway fares to $3. Supposed to be free. He has appointed a new fire commissioner who never put out a fire, but she's a lesbian.
Let's watch a video on that real quick. It's not in the
Lillian
notes.
Bonsignor is a career first responder. In just 9 days, she'll be running the world's busiest fire department, one of the most important appointments of the incoming administration.
And they deserve a leader who cares about their work because she did it herself, who understands every detail.
Now that is a butch if I've ever seen a butch.
No question. Now,
I'm sorry, forgive me. I just had to.
She was an EMT, which nothing against EMTs.
Yeah, of course.
But she never put out a fire.
Of course.
And she's going to be the fire commissioner. So that just lets you know that Joey B's DEI bingo card has been moved from the basement of the White House to the basement of Gracie Mansion because they're going to be using that. You know, it's like, do you have experience putting out fires? Nope. Are you a lesbian? Yep. All right.
You got the job.
Yeah. Okay. But the line that is getting the most play from his speech is this one.
We will draw this city closer together. We will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism. If our campaign demonstrated that the people of New York yearn for solidarity, then let this government foster it. Because no matter what you eat, how you pray, or where you come from, the words that most define us are the two we all share: New Yorkers.
We're going to replace rugged individualism, which I think you would agree built this country, rugged individualism, with the warmth of collectivism.
I could do an entire 2-hour rant on this. And here's the thing, like that line specifically, he's not entirely wrong. But the problem is that his version of collectivism is not based in Christianity or American identity or anything that we should actually share. Like the thing is, it's not actually good to be like a rugged individualist. Nobody acts like that. You have to have a community. You have to have a family. This is how you get things done. This is how you build a society. And it's it's the extension of yourself is your society and your community. So he's not wrong about that, but his version of it is like communist and Muslim and gender non-binary. That's the problem. It's and
not property rights and all the things that go along with that.
Yeah, but the line itself, I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting. I don't think he's necessarily totally wrong about that, but everything else he was saying there, I mean, I'd almost have to watch it again, but he's talking about, I mean, I certainly don't support what he's doing, but I think that is an interesting concept to be explored.
We're going to pop some popcorn because there are a lot of people who think he is now the face of the Democrat Party. So we'll see what happens moving forward on that. And as far as rugged individualism,
he's the face for now. Let's see how it goes in New York. See how long he stays the face of the party.
Rugged individualism. I mean, you're always trying to take my man card away. Now I'm thinking we need to take your man card away.
I don't know about that.
Until next week, please come back. We'll have another episode next week. This is Dale Carter's America.
The views expressed on Dale Carter's America are Dale's and Kurt Wheeler's. They do not necessarily reflect the views of KFKF or Steel City Media. Comments can be sent to dalecartersamerica@gmail.com. Check back for weekly episodes. Subscribe, spread the word, and give us a 5-star review. Thanks for being a part of Dale Carter's America.